No matter who you are, you will have haters. John 15 verse 18 says, if the world hates you, know that it hated Jesus first. So if you have haters, know that God is greater than your haters. Lately you've been feeling the weight of your haters coming at you with their envy and their hate, scheming against you, throwing mud on your name. But God's gonna work it out despite their lies and game. God is greater, so much greater than your haters. God is greater, don't give up, it'll pay off later. God is greater, through the pain you're a giant slayer. The moment you realize you don't need their validation is the moment you set yourself free. That's what we're talking about today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share if you find value there. Before we get into today's topic, I want to tell you about the awesome inspirational mug that I am drinking out of. So I'm drinking out of the Armor of God mug, and it is a mug that contains pictures of the armor of God as a reminder to put on the whole armor of God. And I picked up this mug this morning because I needed to be reminded that the wrestling is not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual wickedness in high places, and to remember to put on my armor, to start my day spiritually dressed. If you want to start your day spiritually dressed for success, pick up the Armor of God mug. It's available at our website, CassandraMacMinistries.com. Click on the link that says merch. So we're talking about the moment you realize you don't need their validation, whoever your there is the moment you set yourself free. So this video specifically is for those who struggle with seeking the validation from other people. If you don't struggle in that area, then you don't need this video. But for those who this is a struggle for, it is important to really begin to try to get to the root of why you seek their validation. And so I want to give you two scriptures that I think will be really helpful for the believer. The first scripture comes from Galatians chapter 1 verse 10. Galatians chapter 1 verse 10. And it says, for am I now seeking the approval of man or of God? Or am I seeking to please man? If I was still trying to please man, I would not be a servant of Christ. So I think that this is a really great starting point when you find yourself falling into the people-pleasing trap and you're seeking validation. And this can be around your goals, your dreams, your life. And sometimes what happens is when we have an idea of something we want to do with our life, when we're really excited about it, when we have a goal that we want to accomplish, when we have a dream that we want to bring to life, sometimes we tell the wrong people. Sometimes we tell people who don't have our best interest in mind. Sometimes we tell people who may love us but just don't get where we're trying to go, right? Because you can have people that love and care for you, but they can't see your vision as clearly as you see your vision because it is not their vision. Or they have a lot of fear concerning the things that you want to do with your life, and they can't see how you can achieve it because maybe they didn't achieve some of their dreams, or they're very fear-based, right? And so it's not always that a person is a hater, but the thing about your life is whether the reasoning has to do with the person being a hater, whether the reason is that they feel they're trying to protect you from being hurt and disappointed if it doesn't work out, whether the reason is they're trying to control you. The bottom and top line is when you live your life and lead your life trying to please people, you will keep being disappointed. And so the first place to start when you find yourself in that place is to simply ask the question, am I trying to seek the approval of ... and you would fill in the name, my mother, my father, my sister, my brother, my friend Susan, Bob, you can fill in the blanks. And really pause on that question, be prayerful about it concerning the thing that you might be seeking approval about. And that will really help you to begin to center yourself spiritually and scripturally so that you can begin to gain the wisdom of God concerning the thing that you want to do with your life that you might be seeking approval about, right? And so just pause and say, when it relates to my goal of going back to school, when it relates to my goal of starting a business, when it relates to my goal of no longer wanting to go the path of medical school and I want to be a content creator, whatever the issue is, you can insert the blanks. It's your life, you're grown, right? You want to ask the question, am I seeking, the approval of, and then insert the person's name? Or am I being led by God? Is this something that God put on my heart and I'm inspired about it? I'm passionate about it. I'm excited about it. I'm committed to it. I'm very, very intrigued to the point where I want to follow it to see where it goes, right? Pause and ask that question. Or am I trying to please another individual? And really be honest with yourself when you answer this question, because this will help you to at least begin to set some parameters spiritually around the question so that you can figure it out. Because sometimes we don't even realize when we're in a space of people pleasing because it's so second nature to some personalities. Sometimes we don't realize when we are in a space of seeking validation and behaving in a way that's not authentic to ourselves, and we are suppressing our own needs, we're suppressing our own goals, we're suppressing our own well-being at the expense of our own well-being, just to make somebody else happy or to please somebody else. So this is going to help you really begin to frame your life spiritually and scripturally. So the second scripture that I want to give you comes from John 8, verse 36. And it says, who the Son sets free is free indeed. John 8:36. Who the Son sets free is free indeed. And so as a believer, you have to remember, right? You were already free spiritually, mentally, emotionally. So you are free spiritually, you are free psychologically, right? You are free in your soul. So your soul is your emotions, your mind, your will, your emotions. That's the realm of the soul. Comes from the Greek word psyche, where we get psychology. That's the psychological makeup of the human being. So you are free in your soul, you are free in your spirit. Our spirit is the essence, the part of us made in the image and likeness of God, right? When we worship God, we are to worship God in truth and in spirit. So when you really begin to understand that, okay, so I am free to make my own choices, right? And there are always consequences, but I'm still free to make my choices. The question becomes, can I live with the consequences of my choices? So sometimes we think we're not free when in reality we are free. And so an example would be, you have a parent, but you are grown. So let's say that you are 27, 25. And you want to do a particular thing with your life. Maybe you want to travel. You want to start your own band. Whatever it is that you want to do, and you've been saving up to be able to do this particular thing. And your parent does not approve of you starting your own band, but you are now an adult. You're a young adult, but you are an adult. You save your money. You're not asking your parents to fund this thing for you. You've saved your money. But they would prefer you going the route of a different route. So you may feel that you are not free because maybe you live in your parents' house. Or you may feel that you are not free because your parents will be disappointed. So you are free to make a choice. The question is about the consequences of the choice. So the consequences may be that your parents will say, well, you can't live here as long as you join a band. You can't live in my house and play in a band. So let's say that's what they say. Then you have a decision to make. So the decision may be that you move in with a couple of roommates. You find yourself a job, a part-time job, or a full-time job while you're doing the band. So you're coming up with some sort of plan that is going to allow you to move forward in the direction of joining the band. I'm using that. You can insert your personal example. And you are standing your ground respectfully in terms of how you want to live your life. And the conversation may be, Mom, Dad, I love you, but this is my dream and I have to follow my heart. And they may take a firm stance to say, well, then you have to move out. And then you may say, okay, can you give me a month? Or you may quietly not say anything and line your ducks up in a row until you have enough money saved up to make the decision that you need to make. So you do have options. Sometimes we feel like we're not free, but we don't want to deal with the consequences, because every choice has an upside and a downside. Every choice has pros and cons. And so part of Adulting 101 is really being very, very thoughtful and deliberate about your decisions, so that they are well thought out and you have considered both the pros and the cons, right? So even the decision to go to path, let's say, of medical school, it has pros and it has cons, right? So the pros, you're going to be a doctor once you complete your course of study, if you pass everything you're supposed to pass. The cons, you're going to have no life for a long time and you're going to be sleep deprived. And so you are asking the question, what's the trade-off? That's really what I'm getting at, right? So who the Son sets free is free indeed. Now let's look at this word indeed, so that we really understand. Who the Son sets free is free indeed, right? And so that word indeed carries two meanings. Indeed means in reality, in actuality, in truth. So who the Son sets free is free in reality, in actuality, and in truth, right? But when you break up the word indeed, the word deed means intentional action. And an intentional action is driven by a clear choice. And so the way that we are free is we are free by way of our choices. So every day, two paths are put before us, right? Life and blessings, death and curses, and we get to decide. So I want to be clear that I'm speaking to adults. So you have the freedom of choice. Now there's a downside. There's pros and cons. And you'll have to really, with pen and paper in hand, think through the pros and cons and then make the decision. And so bringing it back to seeking validation, you want to ask the question, if I make this choice, what are the pros and cons? Will my parents be disappointed in me? Will my best friend stop speaking to me? Will the person I'm dating break up with me? There are pros and cons. So you have to weigh it out to see what you can deal with. If it is a choice to, if it's a choice to distance myself from a very toxic family member who's manipulative, and the other family members are wrapped around this person's finger, will the downside of me going no contact with this other family member affect some of my other relationships? You have to do that mental process. So you're really thinking through, what can I handle and deal with? And you got to know that through Christ, through Christ, we're more than conquerors, right? We're more than conquerors through Christ Jesus. And as you begin to think about that, it becomes harder for people to manipulate you, because you are prepared for the downside. So you are prepared. Here's an example. You have a family member. They wear on your emotional well-being, your mental health, to the point where it is really disturbing your peace, stealing your joy, and it is stressing you out, and you're getting physically sick, right? This is how much the relationship is taking a toll on you. Let's say it's your sibling. And there are three of you, but it's one sibling. You have two other siblings. And you know that when you go low contact or no contact, so you're deciding, am I going no contact, low contact with this sibling, that it will affect your other relationships, because you will see one another at family gatherings. Your mother wants the two of you to be very close, even though they've done so many things to really just drain you. And you have love for them, but just because you love someone, sometimes you have to love people from a distance, right? And so let's say that you are in the process of figuring out, how you want to maneuver this relationship. And you know that it's going to come with phone calls from your mom. Why did you distance yourself? Your sister says she calls you all the time. You never return her calls. Your sister invites you places you never want to go. What's going on? So you know that there's going to be some pushback. Your other siblings may get involved. And so you don't want to deal with the downside. So you're kind of in limbo, and you blame your sister. But at some point, as a grown adult, remember, you have the freedom of choice. And as a believer, who the Son sets free is free indeed, but you're free in terms of your actions. Indeed, you're not only free in truth, right? Indeed means in actuality, in truth, in reality, but you're also free by way of the choice that you make that maintains our ability to walk in that spiritual and psychological freedom. And so the choice is going to come with a downside. Every choice we make has pros and cons. So once you're clear about that and you're like, I can deal with the cons, then it becomes much more difficult for people to manipulate you. So here are a couple of quick and fast action steps if you find yourself struggling with seeking approval of others. Number one, ask yourself, why do I seek approval from this person? There is always a driving reason why you seek approval from a particular person beyond the fact that you love them, you care about them, and you have history with them. I want you to dig deeper. That is a surface level answer, because you may care and love a lot of people or different people, and you might not have a toxic relationship with everybody you care about, or a relationship where a person tends to be very controlling and manipulative. So there is a reason deeper than the fact that you love them, you care about them. So ask yourself why. Ask God why. God, why am I like this with this person? And trust that the answers will come to you. So understanding the reason, the driving reason why you believe you need validation from this particular person will help you to begin to take the necessary steps to grow in confidence and to grow spiritually, to grow in your relationship with God. Because usually what is happening is we are seeking something from another human being that we can only get from God. And so as you dig deeper, you may find the reason is, I'm afraid they'll stop speaking to me. I'm afraid they won't invite me when the whole family gets together. I'm afraid that they will say I'm a bad person and I'm selfish. So there is something fear-based beyond the surface reason. So dig deeper and allow God to pour his wisdom into you so that you can have clarity of answers. So ask that question of yourself. Ask that question of God. 2, ask yourself, what are the downsides? Because when you can map out what the downsides are, you are better prepared to handle them. If you choose to make a decision that you know we're going to upset some folks, you are prepared to deal with their reaction to your decision because you've thought it out. You said you might say there's a possibility this one won't speak to me either and will take her side. You're prepared for that, as opposed to being in limbo. And then the more you think about it, you're able to say, well, if they would take this person's side in terms of staying neutral and allowing me to heal myself mentally and allowing that person to be who they are. I'm not asking them to take sides and don't speak to my sister or don't speak to my brother. I'm just saying I'm making the choice to step back from that relationship. That is a choice that I'm able to make. That is within my rights to make. I'm not putting pressure on them to make the same choice. And if they choose to get mad at me because I distance myself from someone who berates me, belittles me, mistreats me, maybe you have children, treats my children badly, then I have to question that relationship. What are the dynamics there? Sometimes you have to let things be what they're going to be, because we know people by their fruit. And when we walk on eggshells, we allow ourselves to be controlled and manipulated. So really begin to look at that. 3, focus on your relationship with God. As you begin to grow in the things of God and you begin to be built up in the things of God, you will find that your need for validation will begin to decrease. You know, nothing happens overnight. Everything is a process, right? You don't put a seed in the ground and have a fully ripe fruit or flower the next day. You don't put a seed in the soil and it happens the next day. There's a whole process. There's time, there's seasons. You have to water it. You got to cultivate it. So the same thing applies with our spiritual growth, our psychological well-being, our personal development. So make your relationship with God a personal priority, because as you grow in wisdom, as you grow in knowledge, as you grow in understanding, as you grow in discernment, as you grow in joy, as you grow in peace of mind, you will begin to be much more self-sufficient psychologically. A lot of us are self-sufficient, I'm getting tongue-tied. Self-sufficient financially, meaning you got your own place, but are you self-sufficient psychologically? So that will help you to grow in that way. And do what you need to do for this season of your life. And go back to that question that we asked in Galatians 1:10. Am I trying to seek the approval of human beings or of God when it comes to this particular situation, this particular interaction. And by going through these quick and fast steps, you'll at least begin to uncover some answers that will help you make the decision that is right for your life at this time. And remember, everything's a process. You're not going to answer these questions and everything just falls in place, in 2 seconds. That's not how life works. But you can begin to start the process of saying, you know what, I want to make some changes as it relates to seeking the validation and approval of other people. I want to begin to make some strong changes in my life in that direction. Again, if this applies to you, if it doesn't apply, if you know somebody that struggles in this area, maybe you have a friend, a family member, maybe you have college-age children, high school-age children who really struggle in this area, share this video with them. So with that being said, have an amazing day. A couple of things I want to let you know about. So we have an event coming up. It is live in person in New York City. It is happening on Saturday, October 12th, 2024. It is a workshop for women, bringing women together of all ages, all backgrounds. And it's called Fix Your Crown, Sis. And we're coming together to uplift one another, encourage one another in our goals, in our dreams, in our healing in the different areas of our life. And we are coming together to fix one another's crown. I have an exciting day planned for those who come out to the workshop. We are going to have an awesome time. You will meet new friends. You will be able to be in an atmosphere of like-minded women who are all about wanting to see other women win, while wanting to connect with women who want to see them win. So if this sounds like you, get your tickets. Get your tickets. The link is in the video description box to get your tickets through Eventbrite. Tickets are going fast, so do not wait. And it's an intimate event. I'm not going to have hundreds of people there because I want us to really have an opportunity to connect. So it is an intimate event. Get your tickets right away. So I want to make sure you know about that. If you don't have the journal, Rise Above the Haters, and you or someone you know is dealing with haters, get the journal Rise Above the Haters. Rise Above the Haters. The journal will help you to be what I call hater-proof, to develop your hater-proof skills. So I want to make sure I let you know about that. And last but not least, I also want to let you know that we are going to be making some changes to our membership. We're going to be doing some different offerings, making some changes effective September 2024, September 1st, 2024. So there will be a video that will go over what those changes will look like. So be on the lookout for that video, and we will be making some changes effective September 1st, 2024. So I want to give you the heads up and just be on the lookout for that video. It will be out soon. So have an amazing day. And remember, everything that you need, you can get from God. And then the natural outpouring is when we're filled with the Lord, right, with the things that we need, then when we get around other people, we're coming around other people from a place of strength, from a place of fullness, from a place of not seeking their validation, but enjoying their company, or wanting to connect with people by way of sharpening one another. We come from a different space, a more empowered space. So I hope this was helpful for those that may struggle in that area. God bless you, and I'll talk to you soon.